So when Donald Trump called for all American Muslims to carry special ID, you know, you tweeted to Trump a picture of your Marine card, and he says, hey, I'm an American Muslim, and I already carry a special ID badge. What about yours? And then you were all over the news, you know, because of that, and you were like in CNN, MSNBC, and all that. Do you think that they were like more focusing on the Muslim part, or just attacking Trump at that point part?
Well, I think, you know, for me, and by the way, after that tweet went viral, I received over 3,000 different emails and various messages from people all across the country.
Just 3,000?
Just 3,000.
I was ready to hear 300,000.
We get more. Get more emails like that complaining when Modi performs here. So go ahead.
Thank God you mumbled on that. Thank God there was a mumble on that.
Because you interrupted me.
The tweet itself was retweeted over 40,000 times and liked over.
That's what. Okay.
Oh, that's more Modi. That's more like Modi numbers.
It really made headlines in a lot of different ways. But I think what it speaks to is the integrity of the American people, right? That by and large, most Americans value honesty, value service, value loyalty to your nation. And here is someone who claims to be an American, who unfortunately currently is, you know, the President of the United States. But when it was his time to serve, he did everything possible to avoid doing that.
He has bone spurs. Hello.
Yeah, I know. That's serious.
Have you ever had a bone spur?
And flat hair.
Well, apparently those bone spurs were serious enough to keep him out of the service, but not serious enough to keep him from playing collegiate level football. So it was just that, you know, right in that sweet spot there. So what are you going to do?
Oh, but fair enough. Bill Clinton did a similar thing.
Sure, but Bill Clinton never also proposed to ban Muslims from entering the country.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then after that, you started, you know, your work, and you did the Muslim Marine website, right?
Yeah, so shortly after that, I was getting so many requests, you know, just for from the media to share my thoughts as an American Muslim veteran, and with, you know, me having served in the Marine Corps, that you know, a friend of mine suggested, hey, look, you got to start your own website, and you can really reach a lot of people. And so that's what I did. I put together the MuslimMarine.com. It's been very well received, and you know, it's my way of connecting with the American public. Just for some additional context, I belong to the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, the single largest Muslim community in the world that's united under one imam. And our mission is really to serve humanity and to worship God. I mean, those are the two main purposes for which we exist. And so this is my way of connecting with the MuslimMarine.com is my way of connecting with the American public, really to ease their fears and to help people understand really what Islam teaches versus what we may hear in the media or the news or you know, some other anti-Islamic websites.
What about all the terrorist attacks that we go through, and then all we have to do after that is just, you know, condone it? And yeah, I mean, we have a problem as Muslims. I mean, I am Muslim, I'm the only one here in this room, but you know, they're all Jews.
Whoa,
right?
don't insult people.
No,
I'm sorry,
and he's not Jewish.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I'm not Jewish.
And he's wearing shorts because he just came from camp.
Okay,
what are you wearing?
I like that you're taking it as an insult.
It's amazing how just two Jews have given the impression of the whole room being Jewish.
I mean, Jay-Z said it, didn't he? Oh, by the way, you offered to guard the Jewish cemeteries when the whole thing happened. Why? We supposed to be.
Why would you do that?
I'm joking.
You weren't joking.
Hatem is only funny when he's not trying to be.
Why? I was joking.
No, I mean that's what Islam teaches.
Why? The coffee shop was good.
Listen to him. That's what Islam teaches. Go ahead.
Let's be honest. You know what Islam teaches is service to humanity, and so long as a country that gives you freedom to practice your faith, you have to be loyal to it, and you have to be a proponent of justice. And what was happening with the desecration of you know, the Jewish sites and graves, that was a travesty. It was despicable, and you wouldn't want that to happen to any of your ancestors. And so I stepped up and I said, look, this is wrong, and if anybody needs me to stand guard, I am more than willing to do that.
Yeah. So back to my question. So now with all the...
forgive him?
What? No, we'll talk later, now we're meeting on Tuesday. So back when there is, all the terrorist attack and all that, these are Muslims, obviously, they don't represent Islam. But what is it that we can do, in your opinion, besides condoning all this and just the same thing over and over and over?
Well, I think first and foremost we need to really understand why this is happening, right? I mean, I condemn terrorism in all its forms, and Islam condemns terrorism in all its forms. Any of the battles that the early Muslims and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be on him, fought were entirely in self-defense, 100%. And so the first and foremost is we need to understand, what were those conditions under which Islam allows for fighting. And I think that there's really a lot of education that needs to take place here. And so in this effort...
Here or back home?
Well, everywhere. I think in most Muslim countries, I think a lot of Muslims haven't fully understood or haven't fully internalized under what conditions fighting is allowed. And I think because of that misconception, first of all, I think that in a lot of Muslim countries there's a lot of corruption. And because of that corruption, the needs of the average citizens aren't being met. There's a high rate of illiteracy, a high rate of corruption and poverty. And whenever you have that sort of a society, radicalization is very easy to do. And so people who have a hidden agenda, ulterior motives, these extremist clerics, it's very easy for them to recruit people, promise them all sorts of different things, and then indoctrinate them with falsehood, with perverted teachings that really don't have any foundation in the Holy Quran whatsoever. So first and foremost, we need to realize that that's the root cause. And to address that root cause, first of all, you have to make sure that you discharge the responsibilities with justice. So the Muslim governments that are not meeting the needs of the average citizens have to first tackle that issue and start meeting the needs of the people so that there's not so much poverty and that people have a place to live and people have a place to, food to eat and things like that, and basics to education, this, that, and the other thing. So that's the fundamental thing. And then secondly, people need to really understand what Islam actually teaches versus what these extremists believe Islam teaches.
Can I ask you about that? Because that's something I get I get hung up on. I think we all do. Is that anybody's Muslim, understandably and humanly and rightfully, in a sense, I guess, wants to make it very, very clear to the world, hey, this is not Islam. They say it's Islam, but it's not Islam.
Right.
Because you take it personally. But from someone who's not emotionally wrapped up in that, you may be you may be blowing up just how much like someone like me is. I'm not saying it's Islam or it's not Islam. I'm just saying, for instance, if I was alive during the Crusades and they were coming and killing me, I'd be like, well, we got to stop these Crusades. Like, well, dude, no, that's not Christianity. Well, right. Okay, I'm not saying it's Christianity, but they're coming here. They're saying they're Christians and they're killing us. Yeah. So you got to give me some way I can talk about this and stop this. And it's not. If you tell me it's not Christianity, fine, I believe. You tell me it's not Islam. I mean, I've known Muslims my whole life. I believe it's not Islam, but they believe it is. Yeah. But people are dying, and so many people like me, who I think want to be totally moral about this, feel that we get bogged down in semantics, and instead of really discussing it practically, we're forced into like PC conversations where we're apologizing for the way we put it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. I think rather than focusing on, trying to be politically correct, I think we need to understand, like I said, the root cause. And the root cause is that a lot of people are desperate and they are being misled by these so-called leaders to believe things that just aren't true. So how do we tackle that issue? Well, what the Ahmadiyya Muslim community is doing is twofold. Number one, we're trying to educate people on what Islam actually teaches. And then number two, we're trying to serve humanity in whatever way possible. And the way that we're doing that is through disaster relief efforts, through building schools, through building hospitals, where anybody, regardless of their race, their color, their creed, if they need medical attention, our hospitals are providing that medical attention. Our latest project, we just we're building and finishing touches on a state-of-the-art hospital in Guatemala that will treat anybody, regardless of who it is, based on not on their ability to pay, but based on their needs, and then they will pay based on what they can afford. I'm sorry.
From each according to need. From each according to his ability.
Yeah, but exactly. what I'm trying to say is, I think we have great values and all that, but I think the problem still is the same. Nobody, and I'm talking, from being a Muslim, we can say and we can do all the things that we did, like we march with the Jews, we build hospital for this way. The bottom line is they care about one thing. There is terrorist attacks right now, and people are being killed, and those people are doing it in the name of Islam. Now, we all know it's not Islam, but the problem is they understand it that way, so we have responsibilities. So what is our, duty? What should we do right now? Everything you said is great, and I think it's amazing as a value, and, to understand and to teach people. But right now, all they care about is, and all we all care about is, how can we stop this?
Well, can I ask your question in a different way?
You just want to say it in better English.
No, okay. So
that was not funny.
So in France, they have, a pretty big problem with terrorism now, it seems. It's really kind of mushrooming up. And they have an unhappy Islamic community in France. If you could wave your magic wand and set French policy legally any way you wanted, what would be the most effective way to have the Muslim community feel less alienated and more part of French community?
If we want to end terrorism, we have to do one thing, and this is from a Western point of view, right? So you ask, what can the U.S. government do? What can the French government do? What can the British government do? The one thing that we can do, which we will never do,
get rid of Islam.
It's end arms trades, okay? And stop trading arms, stop selling weapons to these regimes for whatever reason that ultimately end up in the hands of terrorists. The weapons that ISIS is using right now were made in the United States. The equipment that they're using right now is U.S. equipment. These are U.S. missiles, U.S. bombs, U.S. machine guns with which they're doing whatever it is that they're doing.
They're driving trucks through Christmas markets in Germany. I mean, how do you stop that?
But that's again, these people are doing this, and first of all, what the data shows is people who are actually doing this are either newly converted converts, so they're either recently converted, or they're doing it for a political reason. They're angry at the misery that is happening, or whatever they can come up with 1,000 different excuses. Religion is simply a smokescreen. None of these people, the fact of the matter is that the best way to defend and to be immune to radicalization is through a strong Muslim identity. This is where education is extremely critical. And from a policy standpoint, this is where we need to be honest and say, look, our government contributes to this issue by selling arms to those who we think are our allies. But at the end of the day, those allies then take those weapons and sell them to whoever they want. And more often than not, they sell them to terrorists to go and do whatever they want to do with it.
I don't mean to contradict you, because you know more than I do about this and you've thought about it, but just in my head, I'm thinking about the recent terrorist attacks, including 9/11, and I don't want to say none of them, but so many of them had nothing to do with arms that were traded by nations,
But they're using them against people over there. That's where it's being used. The weapons aren't being used in the markets in Europe or in planes.
But that's what I'm worried about. How do we stop terrorism in the Western world?
We're feeding the fighting that's happening there.
Yeah, well, I think that, to add to his point,
or not.
That foreign policies, again, this is my main thing, is we got to change our foreign policies. Because ISIS was supported in the beginning by the U.S. government. Taliban, same thing. Osama bin Laden, same thing. These all were created by the American government. And
Except, dude, you got first generation Muslims in America getting radicalized online at a computer screen, and they're going up shooting up nightclubs or whatever it is.
No, first of all, terrorism.
I have an answer, by the way. But go ahead.
Go ahead.
My answer is national service. I think every 18-year-old in America, they've talked about this for years, he needs to volunteer a year or two, compelled a year or two of his life, thrown in together with people of every other religion, race, and color under the umbrella 100%. Of we're all Americans.
I would support that 100%. Absolutely.
I think that is the only way I can think of to make everybody feel a connection to each other. That's the only thing I've ever been able to think of that might have pushed this back in the other direction.
No, you're absolutely right. Look, when I was in the Marine Corps, I was the first Muslim that most of my Marines in my unit had ever met. I'm talking about these, country boys who were in a, totally 97% white town, had never met anybody other than, a Christian. And so there was a lot of interest in my beliefs and where I came from and my history and things like that. And as a result of it, I think that I learned a lot about them and their thinking, and they learned a lot about me. So, and even to this day, we still keep in touch. And whenever there's something that goes down, they're always reaching out to me saying, "Hey, Ty, what's this happened? Can you help me understand?" Or I've got a question about this. And so to your point, it really helps. It helps people gain a better perspective from people in different parts of the world, different parts of the country. Even the United States is so vastly diverse. Having been raised up in Chicago, having friends now that live in Texas, in the South, Louisiana, they're two completely different worlds.
But I want to say something to Noam's point. Like you say, we should all be together in the army, but your point is trying to have the Muslims be part of the American culture. But I think it's more important that the Americans see, like when they see Muslims, like when they met Ty in the army, look how, do you guys remember the first time you met me, how much you wow? No? But I mean, like, it's a good thing to be around Muslims and actually learn the real thing. So it's both ways. It's not one. It's
both ways. Yeah. Also, I mean, I was raised Jewish, and being
shocking,
and the importance of my Jewish heritage was drummed into me. It was very, very, very important in my house. But so was just as equally, the fact that I was an American. And what we see today is not quite that. I mean, like I don't see any problem with Muslims really being aware that they're Muslims and being taught and be proud of it. But equally important, they also need to be told how important it is that they see themselves as American and feel connected to America and its traditions and its history.
And we do.
Some do.
Absolutely.
Some don't.
Well, so my father is a missionary.
France, they definitely don't.
A lot of people don't know my father is actually a Muslim missionary. And when I think back to when I was 18 years old and I told my father, "Hey, Dad, I think I'm gonna join the Marine Corps," and he asked why. He asked for my reasoning. I said, "Look, I'm here. I immigrated to the U.S., but I don't feel like I belong here. And so until I actually do something and feel like I deserve to be here, I'm always going to feel like an outsider." And he said, "Listen, I'm so happy to hear you say that." And he was 100% supportive and reminded me again that according to a saying of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of God be upon him, loyalty to your nation of residence is part of your faith. So as a Muslim, it is my religious duty to serve the United States, and that was one of the driving forces and reasons behind why I served. I think that's not talked about enough in some Muslim communities here in the United States, and that's a very important thing that we need to make sure. But
on the other hand, like we feel being Muslim, but we feel that people don't look at us as Muslim no matter what you do. Like I remember, like when 9/11 happened, we all were scared as American, but I was told that I should be more scared because I'm Middle Eastern and look like this rather than being American. So
what do you mean you were told that? Who told you that?
Okay, you want me to say it? It's your dad. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean like like my friends and everybody's like, "Hey, be careful."
Oh, that people might get even with you. They might hold you.
Something like that. So be like, oh, you shouldn't be scared because you're American and maybe there's more attacks that could happen. You should be scared because you're Middle Eastern or you look Middle Eastern. So it goes both ways.
That's because your friends cared about you, but actually it turned out
I'm saying
things didn't really happen.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they weren't really your friends.
Yeah, no, not really. So,
but I think that brings a really important point, though, because data shows that 9/11 was the first time that many people got exposed to Islam. Even today, even a survey taken 2 years ago, it was done by Pew, indicated that 62% of Americans have never actually met a Muslim, which is, it's mind-boggling that in today, this survey was 2014, but in 2014, more than 60% of Americans have never actually sat down and talked to a Muslim.
So yeah, maybe that's a good point. Maybe something we should arrange.
Well, you're kind of making the same point that I was making.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you were in the army, did you feel any racism in the army or anything like that when you were there?
First of all, Hatem, I think you and I had a conversation about this, but I'm going to remind you again, and for the benefit of Noam, I was not in the army. You know what
I'm sorry.
Stands for, right?
Marines. Yeah.
Dumb Hatem.
He actually,
you're the worst.
He actually told me if you ever said I'm in the army again. Yeah, I'm sorry.
You have to forgive my hot
during your days in the Coast Guard, during your days in the Coast Guard, did you feel you were ever...
So was there bigotry in the Marines?
Honestly, I got so close to my Marines that I never felt that I was an outsider at all. I was treated as a brother.
From day one?
I was promoted really quickly, so I spent my last 2 years of my 5-year enlistment as a sergeant, so... maybe perhaps it was because I was the guy in charge that I didn't, get a sense any kind of racism or anything like that. But I don't believe so. I really think, for Marines, at least back then, I don't know how it is now, but at least back then, if whoever went through that boot camp and whoever earned that Eagle, Globe, and Anchor, it didn't matter what you look like. It didn't matter where you're from. You were a Marine. All of us were one color, and that was green. So, I am very proud of the Marines that I served with. I'm very proud of the Marine Corps and the heritage and the belief system that it instills in you. And if I had a chance to do it all over again, I'd do the exact same thing.
Yeah, good.
Deepu has a question. He's not Muslim, by the way. He's Hindu. Go ahead.
Sikh, but thanks.
Hey, what's up, Deepu?
Sikh.
Oh, Sikh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that actually kind of ties to the question I have. So my question for you is, how accommodating was the military for you to observe your religious protocol, the praying at the various times of day? Were you allowed to do that? Was that encouraged, acknowledged?
Do you want a break? Is that what you're getting?
Yeah. Yeah, so
that was hilarious.
Was I able to go on break whenever I wanted? No. So in boot camp, obviously, you have to go through certain training. So that accommodation wasn't provided, and to be honest, I never requested it because when you're growing up and you're a teenager, you're still trying to figure out the world. And so while I was, while my dog tags indicated that I was a Muslim, I can't really say that I was a 100% practicing Muslim. I mean, I believed in Islam, I believed in God and the Holy Quran and things like that, but I can't really say that I was super devout in my in my day-to-day life at that point. But once I got done with boot camp, certainly there were things that I requested that were immediately accommodated. Like, for example, Muslims don't eat pork. We don't drink alcohol. Mm-hmm. And so in the cafeteria, they would often serve food that was either mixed up with pork or had bacon and things like that. At that point, I requested the Marine Corps to allow me to purchase my own food and to just simply give me a small stipend instead of me having to go to the chow hall. And so they did. They gave me an extra $100 in my pay, and I was responsible for doing my own grocery shopping.
I bring it up because it's a known fact that Sikhs have to spend maybe 10, 12 years in the military before they can even wear a turban in the military. So, I just thought it was interesting. Wanted to hear your your version.
Is that still the case? Because I thought at this point, though, the recent laws had changed, or the recent rules had changed, and that anybody of Sikh faith could wear the turban.
Yeah, I may have to double check that, but that was the case for a while at least. So,
Yeah, I think the rule on that has recently changed, and I've very recently, like a few months. So definitely look into it.
No, I think it's that gay people have to wear a turban now.
It's called a headdress.
Oh, headdress, sorry. Gay Marines. How do you feel about gays in the military?
You know,
that's
as far as I'm concerned, that's nobody's business.
No, but
as long as they can pick up a rifle, they can shoot. They're there to back up, a fellow Marine in combat. I could care less.
And style him too.
Is that
Jesus? Run into combat with you, messy.
Is that uncontroversially the view of Islam on the matter?
Well, in Islam, sexuality is a private matter to begin with, and so whether you're gay or straight, your sexual life is something that is between you and God. Now, Islam and the Holy Quran does consider homosexuality to be a sin, but
just
at
like
the same time, the Holy Quran does not prescribe any worldly punishment for that. I recognize that there are Muslim societies that take matters into their own hands, and I reject that completely. The Holy Quran rejects that completely. So no discrimination, no consequences from a legal standpoint are to be meted out to anyone who is accused or engages in homosexual sexual acts. That's a matter between them and God, as far as I'm concerned. But back to your point about the military. If they can pick up a rifle and they can shoot straight and they're able to do all the physically demanding parts of being a Marine, then more power to them. And
that's a point I want to touch on, and I said that so many times in the show, that Islam does not say anything about punishment in this life. Everything
correct.
Is, and if anybody read the Quran once, he will know that. Well, thank you so much for your time. And you want to share your information with us, our listeners?
Absolutely, yeah. So if anybody wants to connect with me, you can follow me on Twitter @MuslimMarine. You can also go to my website, themuslimmarine.com, and connect with me there. I also have a Facebook page, the Muslim Marine Facebook page. There is one request that I do have of all your listeners. We're not going to overcome this problem of terrorism by doing just one thing. All of us have to be united against extremism in all forms. And right now, our society is feeling the effects of terrorism from not just Muslims, but the radical white supremacist Christian terrorism is the #1 threat to national security today.
Yep.
And the way that we can overcome that threat is by uniting against extremism in all forms. And so in that effort, as I mentioned, the Ahmadiyya Muslim community launched the True Islam campaign. So my request to all Americans out there is to go to trueislam.com, understand the difference between what the extremists teach and what Islam actually teaches, and sign up to become a Muslim ally. It's a great resource, and if there's any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I would be more than happy to engage with anyone who wants to get additional training or education or clarity on an issue.
Well, that's great. Well, yeah, thank you so much, and we'll have a link on the website as well.
Great, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank you guys. You guys are doing a great job. This is a really important work that you guys are doing, and I really appreciate all your efforts in this.
Thank you. I try to attack the Jews as much as possible. Maybe not in this episode.
He does, but I'm hoping to make some money off this podcast.
Thank you, man. And we'll be in touch soon. And anytime you come to New York, please come visit us.
Absolutely.
And in the chow hall in the Marines, when they told you can go get $100 instead, some Jewish guy told you this, right? Come here. We do this kosher thing. You can pull the same stunt. So they'll give you a few bucks instead of this awful food.
Surprisingly, I never met a Jew while I was in the Marine Corps.
Yeah, because
of course you didn't.
Yeah, because we don't have. There's no Jew. Nobody goes.
We're in the Army.
You know what Army stands for, right?
What?
Ain't ready for Marines yet.
Oh. Okay. Okay.
You know, I did a show one time on Guantanamo Bay.
I'm sure he's fascinated.
Right?
Okay,
and,
thank you.
No, it's a naval base. It's a naval base with the Coast Guard guarding it, and the Army's in there watching the terrorists that were there, and there's the Marines guarding the border. All of the military were there, and it's so funny how they to us it's one big the Army, the military, but it's so like.
To us, it's just a bunch of guys with muscle.
It's interesting because when you get out, you know, anybody who served anywhere, hey, they're all my brothers, and you know everything's cool. But when you're in active duty, there's a rivalry.
I'm sure. Yeah.
It gets ugly sometimes. But hey, thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Yeah, and stop by anytime you're in New York City, please. Thank you.
Will do. All right, take care.
Thank you. Have a good one. Take